Good evening, everyone. My name is Breann Bye, and I am the Executive Director of the 6th Avenue Corridor Main Street Program. Welcome this evening. Thank you so much for being here during this evening hour. Thank you to Bobretta Bruton. Bobretta, give everyone a wave. Luke for
Oh,
making this all possible from a logistical perspective. We have a fantastic selection of panelists this evening to visit about investing in our neighborhoods. And that's a topic that so many of us are very passionate about, certainly myself in our work with the 6th Avenue Corridor. So thank you, Bobretta, for this opportunity to facilitate such an important discussion. The first session I know was fantastic and really look forward to the conversations this evening. As part of this, Bobretta suggested that I provide a bit of an overview about who we are and what we do at 6th Avenue Corridor. So I'm going to share my screen with everyone and give you a little bit of context. So the 6th Avenue Corridor Main Street District runs from, sorry folks, let me get that to full screen. So sorry, full screen mode. The 6th Avenue Corridor Main Street District runs from 235 north to the Des Moines River. And I actually live right here at 6th and Franklin, so right in the heart of the 6th Avenue Corridor District. Our Main Street District encompasses Mercy and DMAC Urban, stretches up to Forest, up through College, and then ends there at the Des Moines River Bridge. And I've been in this role, had the pleasure of being in this role for 8 years. And we focus on community-based revitalization in this 1.2-mile stretch of historic 6th Avenue. So 6th Avenue has been the long-time commercial and cultural spine of North Des Moines. North Des Moines was its own separate community. It had its own mayor, it had its own city council in the late 1800s. And it has always been a corridor that has welcomed such diversity and various communities throughout its many years. Here are a few fun historic photos of 6th Avenue. What you may have seen in recent years, hopefully you'll have noticed in recent years that there have been some changes on 6th Avenue, making it more walkable, more bikeable. Previously, 6th Avenue was 5 lanes with very narrow sidewalks. Hard for folks certainly in wheelchairs or groups of kids to navigate the neighborhood comfortably, snow piling up on the sides. So we've been working on a streetscape project, multi-million-dollar streetscape project. Phases 1 and 2 are complete to bring in walkability and bikeability, slow the traffic down, and also integrate trees and public art, trash cans. So here's, that's not great resolution, but here's a before of around 6th and Jefferson. And here's an after. This is what it looks like today. So it's just fantastic to see groups of kids walking up to Birdland Pool in the summertime and people being safe and riding their bikes. Other projects we work on, public art. You'll see a lot of colorful bus shelters being installed on 6th Avenue. That's Sheena Rose, the artist. And they're all up along 6th Avenue. We've also worked to integrate art onto DART buses, host events, and I'm having a hard time. Here we go. One of the projects that you'll likely see more about here within the next couple months is the Center at 6th project. So in investing in neighborhoods, we've taken on a role as what we call foster parent to some properties that are ready for a new vision. And this is a property here at 6th and Jefferson. Marquez Ashworth is working on a concept for the property that will be a Black and Brown business incubator with really wraparound support services for small businesses, incorporating public art, events. And then scroll ahead a little bit more. Our new office also sits on the site here. We took a historic carriage house and fixed it all up so that we have a home that will be directly adjacent to the Center at 6th. And so we work on a variety of fronts, but really trying to foster that vibrancy, support small businesses, and in places where there are opportunity for new development, like this project here. Polk County Housing Trust Fund played a strong role here. This project, we worked with the developers to incorporate live workspaces on the ground floor, advocate for that, but it brings in affordable housing. And as an affordable home buyer myself, we bought our house through an affordable home buying program through the NFC. It's just such an important component to the work of investing in 6th Avenue and into our neighborhoods. So thank you so much for allowing me to take a few minutes to talk about what we have had going on here on 6th Avenue. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we will now turn it over to our panelists who have some information about the work that they do in the organizations that they serve. So first up, we have Lindsay Canaday. Lindsay is Vice President of Business Development, Vice President, Business Development Director for Green State Credit Union. Lindsay, thank you so much for being here tonight, and we would love to hear from you.
Actually, Breann, I might hop in real quick. I think Pastor Whitfield's going to say something off the top here.
I'm so sorry, Pastor Whitfield. I got ahead of myself.
Oh, and you're on mute, Pastor.
Still on mute, sir.
There we go. That better?
Better.
All right. That's all right, Breann. I was enjoying that. Thank you. Thank you. Beloveds, thank you so much for once again being part of this great initiative. I pastor Corinthian Baptist Church, and it's been our joy to be a part of partnering with our community, specifically over these last couple of years, and trying to deal with the issues that are before us, and specifically those who are of lesser served communities and those who need the help to secure themselves in their livelihood. Social determinants are real, and they're out there, and they're much a part of the citizenship of Des Moines. And out of this COVID experience, we were able to come together, and Des Moines was officially brought together just by responding to the needs. The whole idea was to alleviate the barriers that are involved in these social determinants and answer the questions of need that are given to us by the community itself. So out of that came Corinthian Cares, which is part of how we're operating now in a cohesive partnership with Des Moines. And we're continuing to push the initiative. Vaccinations may have brought us here, but the society needs us to stay here. And so we're going to continue to work through these significant issues. One of them being why we're here tonight, dealing with this issue of affordable housing. And so I'm grateful for everyone who's joined. Definitely this great panel of people who are going to come and talk tonight. Hopefully they're going to continue to inspire us with information. But I want this inspiring information to push us to give an impact to our communities. I love to say this, you all can steal it and use it if you need it. Let's move the needle. Let's look at the realities of what we're dealing with and not just look at it, but let's make sure that needle moves in a very positive way. We want these statistics to show that Des Moines just doesn't see, but we care. So God bless you all. I got to run, but you all have a great time. I'm going to be looking at it, making sure you all are doing what you need to do. Thank you for what you do. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Pastor Whitfield. Now we will move into hearing from our very talented group of panelists. Lindsay, I gave you a little bit of warning there, so we'll start with you, and welcome this evening, and thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you, Breann. Yes, as Breann mentioned, my name is Lindsay Canaday. I am the Vice President of Business Development at Green State Credit Union. And my role at Green State is really to focus on our community lending initiatives. We have developed an affordable home loan program, and we are excited about that program. We're proud of that program. I've spent the last year refining that program. When we started, the program was truly an LMI-based program. And what that means is we were lending to low to moderate income individuals. However, majority of those individuals ended up being white as we looked at the data. And that was not the intention of the program. The program was intended to serve Black and Brown individuals. And so we looked at the program and looked at the law, looked at fair lending, and converted it to a special purpose credit program. And under that special purpose credit program, what it does is it allows us to be very specific in our demographic. Not that we are not, let me be clear, we will still continue to lend to low to moderate income white people. We've always done that. We're going to continue to do that. However, the way that this program was designed to really focus in on that demographic, we want to raise awareness of the creditworthiness of that community, while also looking at factors and barriers that have kept them out of the home buying process. So alongside of our program, we've invested in down payment assistance. So we offer up to $5,000 in down payment assistance to individuals that qualify. And like I said, we're really excited to continue to develop the program. We have a component of credit counseling for individuals that do not qualify. So our standards in the program are relaxed, but we simply cannot qualify everyone because that would be predatory. However, for individuals that do not qualify for that program, we have credit counseling that Green State pays for those individuals. And once they've completed that program with their credit counselor, they are free to go to whichever lender they choose and try to obtain home ownership. So that is just one way that we are impacting affordable home ownership and really looking at, like I said, the ways that barriers have kept people out. We will continue to evolve this program. It's not a 2-year or 3-year. We've committed to 10 years in this program and are going to continue to look at ways that we can expand our products to meet people where they're at. And so that brings me to sharing, and some of you may already know, we looked at areas in our Polk County where we did not have representation of financial services. And that landed us in the 50314 neighborhood. There is not a large financial institution that has been in existence in that space. And that's one of the areas that, as we were sitting back and looking at data, we recognized that in itself has been a barrier to that community. If people cannot walk to their bank or credit union, or they cannot get to it on a bus line, they are being discriminated against in a way. And so, in looking at that, we've partnered with YSS and have entered into a lease to join them in the building that's on 6th and Indiana Avenue. And we are so proud of the work that we're going to be able to do. But before we get there, our goal as Green State and as all institutions should be, is to really partner with the neighborhood and the community. We really want to build up trust and let people know that we are not just coming in here to make money. We're not coming in to be here today and gone tomorrow. We're really coming in to create a legacy for people and to really invest in the neighborhood that the corridor is located in. And so that kind of brings me back to, so one of this specific session was talking about investing in your neighborhood. And what does that mean to Green State? Like I said, it really means partnering with the people that are already there, bringing their voices and their beliefs and what they want to the forefront, and using that when we are making decisions about how we move in the future. As I was thinking about what did I want to say and what did I want people to hear, I really want us to think about what the difference is between revitalization and gentrification. Because when it comes to affordable housing, if we start to gentrify these neighborhoods, that housing is not going to be affordable. So as businesses and investors and community members, when we're looking to do projects in these neighborhoods, we really need to think about the revitalization piece and not what is in it for us. We need to be keeping that community at the forefront when we are making those decisions. Like I said, Green State is excited to be a part of that community. We're excited to continue to expand across central Iowa and offer products that really meet people where they're at. 2 days ago, when my colleague Kenya talked on the prior session, she also mentioned that we do I-10 services. So we lend and provide services to I-10 holders. And I think that that's also key in keeping those I-10 holders a part of this conversation and a part of this community. Their citizenship should not matter when it comes to them having quality financial services. So I will turn it back over to Breann and we'll hear from other panelists.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. that was really helpful to hear about the work that Green State's doing and really how you are investing and expanding into the neighborhoods. We're so excited to have you here on 6th Avenue. I think it's going to be a tremendous opportunity for the community. Next, we will turn things over to Steve Eggleston. And Steve he is the Field Office Director for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So I know Steve has a few slides to share with us this evening, and will give us some information about the work he does. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I'm the Field Office Director. We have an office in the federal building. I represent the entire state of Iowa for the department. You can see here a litany of items of programs that we do. Some people have probably heard of the rental assistance, public housing, Section 8, etc. We also have monitoring. In other words, if there's someone using our programs, our funding, we make sure they meet all of the health standards and quality standards for those properties. We fund homeless programs. We do community planning development, which Breann mentioned in one of her slides. There were some dollars from the CDBG money, community development block grant money that went into one of those projects. And then we have single family programs in fair housing, and that is what I want to talk about tonight. Now, if you've ever heard of FHA, it means Federal Housing Administration. This particular program was actually started in 1934 to help combat the Depression. For those of you that are history buffs or have seen the Undesigned the Red Line series of articles and slides, the FHA was actually one of the first federal programs to discriminate against people with color. They actually drew red lines around neighborhoods and would not allow banks to fund or put a mortgage on a property there. Obviously, that has changed dramatically. The reason that I bring up the FHA is there's some advantages to buyers. First off, if you've been going to housing counseling or dealing with financial literacy, you probably heard about your FICO score, your score that they use to judge how fit you are for a loan. It could be a wide range. It goes up to 850, I think. The reason the FHA is used as much as it is in Iowa is because this organization guarantees or insures the mortgage for the bank. So the bank is willing to do a loan at a smaller or lower FICO score than they normally would if it was just their conventional lending. That number is right around 580. And then the down payment is smaller than a lot of conventional loans, 3.5% right now. There are other programs within, and Lindsay mentioned it, and I know that National Neighborhood Finance Corp, et cetera, they have some pretty good lending programs. This is just one of many that are out there. If you're a veteran, the VA does homeownership loans. The second item on this slide is housing counseling, and I'm a huge believer in this. When I ran a small nonprofit, I built homes, and we had a housing counselor that built the people up, got them to fix their credit if they needed to, save some money, and then we would sell the houses to those folks. There are counseling agencies throughout the region and throughout the state. I'm a firm believer that the time and effort to work with a counselor, those are confidential meetings, is really worth it. It really, really is. I bring up the Fair Housing Act because even though we're in the 21st century, there is discrimination. And I wanted to list the original 7 categories of from the Fair Housing Act of 1968. And these are the original ones. There's also a couple others that have been added to it, including you cannot discriminate against based on sexual orientation, LGBTQ, or your marital status. All I'm going to say on this right now is if you think that for some reason somebody is not treating you fair, whether it's a realtor, whether it's an appraiser, whether it's a banker, whether it's a realtor, if I said that, you can call the Des Moines Civil Rights Commission. You could call my office, the Iowa Civil Rights Commission, and we will make sure that somebody takes a look at that. I consider this just as important as the housing counseling. We do not want to discriminate against, and we want to make sure that people are not discriminated against. A couple things that we know are prevalent in Iowa is discrimination based on having children, which is familial status, and that's a no-no, and service animals. People will discriminate because of that, and we want to make sure that doesn't happen. Again, you cannot be refused to rent or buy a home. You cannot be refused to negotiate on the sale of a home or otherwise make it unavailable. They cannot lie and say it's already sold. I'm sorry, I don't have time to show it to you. These are all very subtle examples of discrimination that we don't want to see happen. Now, short and sweet, the FHA is a wonderful, wonderful lending program. Most of the banks in this community, in this region, will do an FHA loan. You go to the bank, they will help you do all the paperwork. You don't have to come to HUD to do that. I want to reemphasize the need and the importance for housing counseling. And unless anybody has any questions, that's all I have at this point.
Thank you, Steve. And questions may certainly arise. Luke put it in the chat box, but if you do have questions, as we may have some time to answer them, definitely put those questions in the chat box and we will get to them as we're able at the end of the conversation. Next up, we have Jenna Knox. Jenna is a neighbor of mine, just a block up here in River Bend, and Jenna is the foundation director for Broadlawns Medical Center. Thank you so much. Oh, there you are, Jenna. Thank you so much for being here with us this evening, and we look forward to hearing about what you and Broadlawns are up to on this topic.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to wear two hats tonight. One is going to be my Broadlawns Medical Center hat, and then my other one is going to be a little bit about Des Moines Public Schools and their important role in the work that they're doing in this space. So for those who are not familiar, Broadlawns is our community hospital. It's our Polk County hospital, proud to be a safety net hospital for our community for 99 years. Our mission statement is to strive to build a healthy community in which there is accessible, cost-effective, and high-quality patient care for all. And our vision is that the people in Polk County reach their full health potential, regardless of social position or socially determined circumstance. So if you did not know, critical healthcare alone only accounts for 20% of a person's health status. So the majority of an individual's health is actually determined by the type of food they eat, their employment status, their education level, the physical environment in which they live, and then of course their housing. So to really care for the whole person, we as an institution recognize that we must address all of these other determinants of health through social and economic initiatives. And all this really aligns with our place as being a community partner and an anchor institution. Broadlawns is proud to be one of the largest employers on the north side of Des Moines, and really takes their role in the 50314 zip code especially seriously. So an anchor institution, if you're not familiar, are really place-based, mission-driven entities, such as hospitals, but could also be universities or government agencies that really work to leverage their economic power alongside their human and intellectual resources to improve the long-term health and social welfare of our communities. So we really believe we have the ability to influence positive change with many influences, including our economic influence. So a few ways that we're already doing this at Broadlawns, and the way that we are really committed to improving overall well-being of the community is by increasing the income in our neighborhood. So for, I believe it's the last 7 years, 5 to 7 years, we've had a program called our Teach Tech Apprenticeship Program, where we are really committed to recruiting and trying to hire individuals who live in 50314 or 50316 zip code. And this is a paid apprenticeship program. We try to recruit and enroll into the program individuals who are underrepresented within the healthcare space or may otherwise not have the opportunity. So our HR team really goes above and beyond to work with the state to try to get individuals who may otherwise not be able to work in a healthcare setting an opportunity to have an apprenticeship to train to become a certified nursing assistant, so a CNA. And it's a 6-week program here at Broadlawns where you're paid, and if you graduate from the program, which is administered in partnership with DMAC, you are offered a job here at Broadlawns. And if you don't love it at Broadlawns, regardless, you now have a CNA that you can take anywhere to go and better yourself. But we have 48.5% of our graduates are still employed here at Broadlawns, earning a living wage, receiving benefits, and we are really working on taking this program to the next level by figuring out what comes after a CNA and how can we support individuals growing within the healthcare field, and also how we can maybe get more people involved in the program. So exciting announcements to come there. But we're really proud to be working with youth at our local high schools and adults and at our colleges to explore healthcare careers and try to increase that that income level specifically within our North Des Moines neighborhoods. We also know, though, that that more meaningful change is needed. And so we have developed a strategic plan. Our board of trustees, along with our, I say new CEO, president and CEO, Dr. Anthony Coleman, but he's been here for a year, which is kind of hard to believe, but have developed a strategic plan, which really addresses community health. Community health is just at the front and center of this plan. And so some of the different priorities that we're working on as we look forward to the next 3 years include expansion of the Teach Tech program, which I mentioned, our job training apprenticeship program, promoting safety and walkability within our neighborhoods, ensuring access to healthy food, promoting social integration and community engagement, and really improving overall health equity among vulnerable populations. One other way that we really work within the housing space that I do want to put a plug in for is our community-based mental health program. So we have a robust number of programs for individuals who struggle with chronic mental illness. And Broadlawns plays a pivotal role in helping our patients to find safe, affordable housing and maintain and stay in that safe, affordable housing for their overall health and well-being. So we work closely with case managers to help place individuals, but also ensure that they remain in a stable environment. It's so critical to their health outcomes that they remain in a stable environment. So Broadlawns as a system, we're committed to continuous learning and of course, continuing to improve and, you know, again, just ensuring that health equity is at the center of all that we're doing. You know, our goal is to really help stabilize our families and our communities so that everyone can flourish within our county. DMPS obviously mirrors a lot of the work that's happening within the Broadlawns space, the Des Moines Public Schools, which is the largest school district in the state of Iowa, where I'm proud to serve as a school board member to represent District 2, which is the north side of Des Moines. We have invested in a number of community school coordinators and a community schools program to help supplement our students and our families with those supports that they need beyond academics. So food, clothing, connecting individuals with healthcare access, and then of course shelter. So we're proud to be able to assist families in trying to find safe, affordable housing. And we also have bilingual family liaisons on staff who can work with our families that are non-English speaking. Additionally, if you did not know, a few years ago, we also added in Iowa Legal Aid within our schools. And they have been a really critical part of helping families to be able to, if they are facing eviction, to be able to navigate that process and to try to ensure that all their legal rights are being met as it comes to housing and needing housing as well. So that is a little bit about what's happening with Broadlawns in this space and with Des Moines Public Schools in this space. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this panel and to uplift what's happening within those two different organizations in our community.
Thank you so much, Jenna. We will now turn things over to Bridget Robinson with the Neighborhood Finance Corporation. Bridget is the Diversity and Inclusion Mortgage Loan Originator, and it does a lot of great work there at the Neighborhood Finance Corporation, and I can speak nothing but positive things about the organization as we purchased our home through the NFC, and appreciate all the work that you all do in the community. So Bridget, we'd love to hear about what you're up to and how this intersects with investing in our neighborhoods and building affordable housing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Breann. And I just want to give you a thank you to all of you. I'm in admiration of just being in a room full of leaders, being passionate about the exact same thing that I'm doing now, that I never thought in a million years that I would be doing. And I really appreciate all the shout outs from the last webinar on NFC, on the J2H program. It's definitely been a development, and it's definitely been a ride. So since joining NFC about a year ago, I've learned a lot. And I'm not just talking about getting my certification as a loan originator. I'm talking about what it means to be a real advocate, a real leader, and just an overall better person. And exactly what I've been able to do in the nonprofit world and why I've been brought there. I've had conversations with, council folks here recently, and it was just like, just meeting with a friend. It's gotten to the point where it's no longer work anymore. And stepping into the role at NFC has definitely identified a lot of things that I never thought I could do, let alone the conversations with the folks that I've been having. So, just a little bit about NFC. If you're not familiar, we've been in the neighborhood for about 32 years. And our big piece is about revitalization of neighborhoods. We have partnerships with the city and county in order to do this work that we're doing and to lend in the areas that we are in. We provide unique loan products for folks on an affordability level to not only purchase a home, but to also do renovations to that home. And some folks even buy a home and have the ability to do renovations just right off from the gate from the purchase of their home. So we have a lot of different layers that work together with different programs that exist in the community already with other lenders to provide that opportunity of affordability in housing and in existing housing, no less. It's always one thing to buy a home, but what if you already own that home and you need some work done? That's where NFC can step in and provide those services in conjunction with other assistance programs, as I said, around the community. So one in particular, I'm sure if you attended the last webinar, you've heard a little bit about is the J2H program. It's the Journey to Homeownership program. This is a deferred loan down payment assistance program that was really backed by the research that was done by the Directors Council, if you're familiar with them, and their report, the State of Black Polk County. We really wanted to join with an initiative that already existed in our community to help support the push for closing that gap wherever it may be. And in our particular profession at NFC, of course, it's housing, right? So we made the asks to many community partners and have developed this program around down payment assistance that was intended for Black and African American, residents of Polk County. We also do some lending in Cedar Rapids as well. So there's an opportunity there. There's a need there that we had recognized and have been operating there since, like I said, about 32 years. So the Journey to Homeownership program, again, is based off of the Directors Council report in support of growing home ownership in the Black and African American community. And we're talking about the Black diaspora as a whole. So not necessarily born and raised here from the start. There are individuals that have, immigrated to Iowa, have lived in Iowa, and never had the opportunity to own a home. So again, partners like Green State are able to do the I-10 lending, which is phenomenal. We are able to refer borrowers who we are not able to help in that arena to partners like Green State in order to get that work done and to get these folks into homes that they really deserve. So the Journey to Home Ownership program has a lot of different layers to it. A big thing with the J2H program is that we wanted to make sure that there was more of an educational tool out in the community, especially since we're serving that Black African American community. So we developed some classes around, different barriers that could come up as a Black or African American homeowner. And I've had the pleasure of having a few of you on this call, actually presenters on this call, present at my classes. So these classes will address more than just credit, more than just savings. It goes beyond that, because there are other issues that exist in the Black and African American community that need to be addressed, or at least given a heads up. So we've talked about anything from lead poisoning with the Polk County Health Department. We've talked about, HUD, as Steve has presented earlier, because a lot of folks really don't know that these resources already exist in the community. We're not trying to recreate the wheel. We're trying to partner up and network and make this a larger thing for more people to access, and a more concentrated and intentional access, because there can be brand confusion with all of the programs that may be going on in the communities, which there's nothing bad about having the number of programs in the community to help, but we just need to make sure that we're intentionalizing these conversations and making these networks a little bit tighter so as not to confuse folks. So the J2H program, as I said, is a down payment assistance program. We've closed already quite a few loans under this program. We've made the ask to other financial institutions and lending institutions so that it's not NFC centered. They are able to go to other partner lenders of the J2H program to obtain their first mortgage and don't necessarily have to go through NFC. Again, it's not about, whether or not, or it's not about our program fitting everyone. Because we know that is not the case. And that's why there are so many other programs, because we may not be a fit for everyone, and that's okay. You want to be able to have those options out in the community, affordable, trustworthy options in the community in order to make that decision, because buying a home, as we all know, is a very big decision in your life. It's the biggest asset you'll probably own in your life if you do own a home. So we don't want to, again, recreate the wheel, and we want to make sure that we're already using resources out in the community. I always get a little tongue-tied because I'm, even just doing presentations, I'm still kind of new. I still feel like a newbie. So I kind of get a little nervous sometimes, but I always tell people that I'm not here to sell anyone anything. That's not my goal. When I go and talk about our programs for NFC and how we can help you potentially not only purchase a home, but fix up your home, people sometimes think that you're trying to sell them something, and that's definitely not why I'm here. I'm here to help provide information. I know information that I've learned. I'm a student of my community, right? I mean, we pretty much all are, and we can safely say. You can't have community connections if you're not listening to the community. And it really doesn't matter what product information I tell people about, because you know what? It's the work that we do that will tell this story. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Bridget. I did get a little feedback that some folks might have a little hard time hearing me, so I will try to speak up. I am not a typically quiet person, so perhaps it's a bit of technology on my end, but thank you all. We do have this evening Pastor James McNear with us as well, and we certainly are excited to hear his perspectives on the work of investing in our neighborhoods. Pastor McNear has been the pastor of Mission Temple Church right at Forest and 9th for a number of years. And Pastor McNear, we love your closing thoughts, and then we will certainly, depending on time, open it up to some questions. And I have a few questions that have come to mind, but we'd love to hear from you first.
Thank you, Breann. We're actually closer to you. We're at the corner of 5th and College. And
I apologize, sir.
No, not a problem. No. I just was excited. I was part of that groundbreaking of that of the project, and I've seen the change in our community, and you are to be commended for spearheading that and to all of those things that are happening, the revitalization of the community. 50314. I'm actually from the 50316. However, my parents, my father was a pastor in the area and has always been since 1957. And our church was over behind the human resources building or the human services building over there on University. Well, I just want to say that I made extensive notes and I listened very intently to every presenter tonight who so meticulously and yet simply outline the services and their passion for what it is that they do for the community. It's important that the community is aware of the services available to them, which is why this events like this webinar is very important. So we can take advantage of the power of media, the power of great leaders. I'm so impressed. I can't help that I'm partial. That one of my students is making great strides in helping to change and to transform our community. As I begin to just write down a couple of notes, and I'm gonna be expeditious in my presentation, but I just want to say that Pastor Whitfield presenting it at the beginning was very appropriate, because Pastor Whitfield and our relationship in serving the community began at the beginning of COVID, where we were unloading on a hot summer's day, unloading a semi truck full of food for people who really needed it. And that's where our relationship was forged. We became a partner right here in our community without any fanfare or anything in Vax Des Moines, with Barbaretta and Luke and everyone that was involved. Vax Des Moines was a byproduct of that. Very effective, and we did that without any fanfare. And many other entities. Steve brought light to what we have always known, that there has been discrimination in lending. However, these things have been righted, and there is a concerted effort to make sure that these things and these services are offered to everyone. I saw in his presentation the need for adequate and accurate information being disseminated, services being offered to everyone. So our job is to get the message out. Ms. Knox talked about some things, and I really loved the idea of the youth component, investing in our youth, investing in maybe in people. I taught in Des Moines Public Schools for over 20 some odd years. And I was always heartbroken when there was a senior that was about to graduate and didn't know exactly where they were going to go to college or what the next move was after they walked across the stage. And this program that you outlined lets people know you don't necessarily have to know exactly what you're going to do for the rest of your life, but there is a path and there is a directive, and there are people that are interested in you being successful. That was important to me. I made a great note about that. Mental health, all of those things that she talked about are so very important. A holistic approach at living well in our community. It's important. It doesn't make any difference if you have a lot of money and you're not well mentally. Bridget talked about some great things that I thought were very important. And I wrote down specific word from her presentation was being intentional. Intentional networking, not duplicating services, and all of the being territorial. You all may think that doesn't happen, but it does. It's people can be very territorial when our job is to serve our community. That's why we're here. That's why I was excited about from the invitation from Barbaretta to take part in this, is because that's why we're here. We're all servant leaders. Servant leaders do not care who gets the credit. Servant leaders just want to see the job being done. I'm a Des Moines native, was raised in the 50316, just north of East High School. I'm very aware of what this neighborhood or this area used to be and used to be known for. We were known for the first mall in Des Moines. Park Fair Mall was the place everybody wanted to be, not Valley West. Park Fair Mall was the first one. And the coolest thing was to go underground. That was the neatest thing. The best sporting goods store, the best everything was over there. But it's important that we have a return to that and realize that demographically we're not the same as we were back then. When I was growing up, I was a student at middle school at Harding. I'm an Eskimo. I went to Harding, but I lived 2 blocks from Amos. My mother was emphatic that I would attend Harding. It was viewed to be a great school. So I want you to know that this area has the potential to be and to exceed what it used to be. I want to close with this. A couple other things that I wrote down, and I'm just really inspired tonight. Unity is accomplished by realizing that a series of unities must happen. And that is what everyone who is presented tonight has so succinctly said, is that let's just be aware of what we all have to offer and what we all bring to our community. How powerful all of these sessions have been. And I just want to bring attention to this powerful weekend that we have here. These 2 sessions have been, I think, part of the fulfilling of the dream of Martin Luther King. And especially the emphasis of availability to everyone, especially the underserved. He said that we have to take care of poverty here in America if America was going to be great. I'm not going to quote that again, but I'm just going to say he said that we have to deal with poverty if America is going to be what it should be. To those that are trying to access the American dream, access and information has been given to us, as well as a plan after you receive the access. And after you receive the information, it leads us to the desired outcome of a better quality of life for all. Thank you all for sharing all of the entities that have shared tonight. You've shared vision, you've shared passion, and the step-by-step plan to lift up and to edify our community. Now we must continue to cast vision. For without vision, from my side of the tracks, there's a scripture that says, for without vision, the people perish. We must focus on our youth because they possess the energy to carry the vision to places that we're hesitant to go or too tired to go. The vision needs fresh legs. So let's look within our circles of influence and identify youth with passion. I'm so proud of Lindsay, can't help it. But let's identify youth with passion that can carry on the vision long after we've gone off the scene. If not, the vision perishes and the flame is extinguished when we're gone. This weekend, as we celebrate again the vision of freedom, let's celebrate, let's commemorate, yet we need to contemplate that we have a long way to go until freedom rings And it's more than a notion, and it's more than an ideal. We now are the only ones, with the help of the Almighty, that help people survive in the hamlets that he identified, in the underserved places of our country and our community. And this great revitalization and change of mindsets begins with each one of us as individuals. Thank you for letting me be a part of this. I am so inspired. I just want to run outside and yell and tell everybody, and you need to have that same attitude. I'm going to run and tell everybody about the services that we have to offer to make our community better. Thank you, Breann.
Breann, you're on mute.
Thank you. I thought I unmuted myself. Thank you, Pastor McNair. That was a fantastic way to round out all the information that we received from the panelists. I think it's truly inspiring work that's being done in the community. Wanted to ask Luke. Luke, have we had any questions come into the chat at this point?
We have not.
Okay. Well, I would have a few questions that really kind of capitalize on that idea of going out into the street and shouting out, the information that we have. We've talked about some exciting new programs. There's obviously some funding streams that are making new programs available in the community. There's a reprioritization that organizations have been making to really be intentional, that word intentional, about how they're investing. A question that I would certainly have for anyone, but Lindsay, I think you and Bridget, your work there at Green State and the NFC bring it to mind. Where are you finding those opportunities for making those relationships, for providing that information? And are there ways that we, as I think a collective we, can start to learn from those places of information? Where is it working well, and where are there still improvements to be made?
Yeah. Well, I can take part of that. I'll lift up the fact that Bridget and I actually are a part of the same coalition that is focused on Black and Brown homeownership. It was started as an idea by a local realtor, Mina Jones, and it has evolved into a collective of people from multiple financial institutions, multiple nonprofits, and people that are in Polk County housing trusts that are passionate about the same thing, keeping housing affordable and increasing home ownership, because we know that it's a wealth generator. But so sans that, I would also lift up the fact that there has been a lot of work that's already been done. So seeking out those that have already started to lay the foundational work and just talking with them about what barriers they've acknowledge the barriers that they've had in trying to move their work forward. And instead of reinventing the wheel, focus on the collaboration piece. I had mentioned, with us moving into a new neighborhood, it's all about building up that partnership with the people that are already there, building relationships with community members that have already been working on these critical issues, and making sure that we understand what they're saying and truly are listening and hearing them out, and not impressing our values, our ideas, our goals on them, making sure that we are, that it makes sense for us to be there, and that we've already been supporting the work that they're doing. One thing that at Green State, we often talk amongst our team or internally about how it's not just us doing this work. We can't be the only one. So we have to continue to encourage our peers in the credit union industry to join us in addressing these issues, and sharing the information that we've learned, sharing the products that we've developed, the guidelines that we've been able to establish, and really making it a collective approach, and not a one size fits all or a one organization doing all the work. Because it didn't take one organization for us to get here. there was lots of people that were making a lot of bad decisions on our behalves. And so now that we're here, it's going to take all of us lifting up this work. So I'll turn it over to Bridget to also add to that.
Sure. Thanks, Lindsay. And it's great, all of the things that you touched on, because, you know, great minds think alike, as they say. You know, NFC is doing that work as well, where we've, you know, recruited ambassadors that are in the community, nonprofits, churches, you know, educational institutions, and said, hey, again, as Lindsay has touched on, you're hearing what the community wants to hear. You're already experiencing this. How about you be a champion or an ambassador of these programs? Because it's just convenient for those community members. They're right there. Again, they're already hearing what their community members are saying. So it just makes sense. So, you know, it's been a lot of trial and error, especially with the J2H program. We've had a lot of different, you know, spaces that we thought, yes, this would be great. And it didn't actually work out. And then there's other spaces that it just took off running. We've made intentional partnerships, of course, with Des Moines Public Library, just to, again, offer some flexibility. So they already have programming that goes over redlining, housing discrimination, race discrimination in housing, things of that nature. So we've made that partnership and that contractual partnership with them to be able to offer our participants of the J2H program certificates from just attending those sessions as well. Again, creating that flexibility. So if they're not able to make it to one of the classes, they can still obtain their certificate through another entity already in the community who is already talking about this, these topics and having these conversations in those spaces.
I might hop in here for a second. Mina's name was mentioned, Lindsay mentioned it, and so I just wanted to bring her in here for a second to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. First off, I would like to say great job. It is very inspiring to see and hear so many people doing this great work. I am a realtor here in Des Moines, and I focus on real estate, but majorly I focus on Black home ownership and bridging some of those gaps by offering financial empowerment. Something new that I have started is kind of advocating for Black homeowners that may have some trouble. So just as an example, yesterday, I actually physically went to court with someone yesterday just to advocate with them, because you don't know what you don't know. And so some of this information and looking over some of those contracts, they might not see and understand in a way that someone that's been in this field or actually in housing may be able to understand. So that's just something new that I'm also adding underneath my umbrella. And then, as Lindsay had mentioned, the Coalition for First Time Black and Brown Home Buyers. And that was just an idea that I kind of came up with, and Bridget was right there with me, and we were able to get some amazing, you know, entities from this community together and give this information out. So I'm looking forward to working with all of you in the future. If we're all doing the same thing, we're all going to come together and really make a change. And so I just wanted to introduce myself. And if I could, Luke, I'll give you some contact information for me. And if everybody would like that, I'm here.
Thank you so much for popping into the chat and being present.
Thank you.
And putting your information out there. It's fantastic. Jenna, I have a question for you. You talked a little bit about those social determinants of health and the physical environment, and how investing in our neighborhoods, certainly we think about home ownership, we think about access to capital and banking, but how the physical spaces of our neighborhood affect our health. Could you speak on what you've seen in your time, certainly in River Bend, in your work there at Broadlawns, and then certainly in your role as a school board member, how we can make investments that impact, from a physical standpoint, the health of our neighborhoods?
That's a deep question.
Where do we still have to go? What are you excited
I
about?
think there's just it's obvious that there is inequity among our communities, right? I mean, I think just throughout Des Moines, but even for, you know, you travel outside of Des Moines and you just see inequity of what individuals, the accessibility and the lifestyle that individuals are able to access in certain neighborhoods and zip codes. And it's just, I mean, I think it's blatantly obvious and it impacts so many things, right? I mean, I think one thing I didn't talk about is how, you know, in Des Moines Public Schools, because there is such a lack of affordable and stable housing, how often kids have to switch from school to school to school because they're having to find, their parents are having to find different apartments to live in because they cannot have that stable housing and how that impacts their education, how that impacts you know, that outcome alone, right? And yeah, I didn't touch on the lead in homes. That's definitely something at Broadlawns we are proud to screen very heavily for and educate and work lockstep with the county on and educating families about, you know, rights and programs around, you know, that harmful, again, inequity, right, that exists in some of our neighborhoods. And so I can't remember the original question. I think it just impacts everything across the board. And so it is so much that I think just as a healthcare entity and as a school system, it'd be really great to just say, oh, well, you know, here's some more medication, or here's some, you know, here's what we can do when you're in the building, you know, a few hundred days a year. And that's just so, we can't move the needle that way. I think I'm proud to be a part of two organizations that understand that it's so much more, that everything is tied together. And I hope that this expands beyond and into the larger community. I'm glad to hear that the corporate, you know, community, thank you, Lindsay, for being here from Green State and understanding the sort of corporate contributions that are needed to be made along with our governmental contributions and our civic organizations, because it just really does take everyone to address the vast inequities that exist. Did that answer the
Thanks,
question?
Jenna. It did, absolutely. Because health, investing in our neighborhoods, healthy neighborhoods, they touch on so many of the topics that we're talking about here tonight, you know, access to capital and the physical environment and mental health. And I think about, you know, in the work that we do, thinking about the space of small business and entrepreneurship and how to support that. So we've touched on a little bit upon that this evening, but just, you know, additional opportunities, access for equipment purchases. And, you know, I think all about also ownership of property, you know, small business ownership of property versus leasing. And so those are some of the questions that, you know, I think we all grapple with and are making some progress in some areas. In another, Steve, I don't want to leave you out from the conversation, the good conversation that we're having here. How do you feel, you know, certainly the federal government, you know, HUD, these are kind of big departments that I think people don't necessarily think about how they can engage with, or maybe how they can access certain programs. But what information could we share out to maybe our neighbors and our friends about resources there at HUD? That's a broad question, but just how can we make it a little bit more integrated into the work that we're all doing?
I think the discussion that's been going on earlier, where we pick each other up. For example, I've got for each one of the speakers, I've got a topic. For Jenna, she just mentioned lead paint. We have grants to reduce lead paint exposure in homes. And so we also have what's called healthy homes. And in fact, Polk County Health did receive a significant grant to do that. With Lindsay, and when I say I wanted to touch base with all these people, this is how I get the programs out there. We have brochures and such, but with Lindsay, I want to talk to her about, let me get my notes here. Oh, employer assisted housing. It's a new passion of mine. It's something I think Broadlands could talk. I'd like to talk to Jenna about that. It's not that I'm going to sell somebody the program, but I want to start the conversation. And if you don't do that, as you're talking about everybody being involved with Bridget and Lindsay together, et cetera, if we don't do that, then we can't share with the folks that are participating in this event. And so each one of you are going to get a call from me. and focus on some of the things that you've said. And at the same time, I am trying to do everything possible. When we talk about exposure for HUD's programs, sometimes when you bring the folks from headquarters here, that opens the door for a little more communication. I'm doing everything possible to get the highest ranking person from HUD in Des Moines in this calendar year. We have some opportunities. Excuse me. And so that's the best way to get program information out. They can always call our office. We can help them if they have trouble figuring out who they can go to get an FHA loan from. We can tell them who to go to, the list to go to. If they need to find out a housing counseling agency, and we can point them all out. So we can do that communication, but I would prefer to work with the communities and to work with the churches and all the programs that are on this screen to help pass the word.
Thank you, Steve. It's exciting to hear that you're working to bring that visibility of our needs and our efforts to the highest leadership there at HUD. Very, very much appreciated. We are at 7:06. I certainly don't want to end things though without touching base with Ms. Barbaretta and just, checking in with you and seeing if you have any. You always have such insightful questions and you are a connector of people. I mean, I was talking with Jenna about it. It's like when Barbaretta calls, you take the call and you say yes, even if you're not quite for sure yet what you're agreeing to. So definitely don't want to end things without just hearing from you and seeing if you have any questions that haven't been asked and some closing thoughts.
Well, thank you very much, Breann, for being one of our facilitators for this 2-day webinar focusing, on affordable home ownership. And the presenters, I mean, you guys are really great. I remember when Luke was inviting me to the meeting and I started hearing some of the things that you were talking about. And then afterwards I said, Luke, these are great programs and great people. We need to have a Zoom call, because that's what we did with the Vax DSM when people were not understanding, and there was all of the, different stories and non-truths and fears and all of that. And so we brought together a group of presenters that were actually doing the work, like Jackie Easley and Director Coleman. I mean, he was part of it from Broadlawns. He had just landed and I was calling him. It's like, hey, we really need you. But anyway, people really felt that was helpful because it got rid of some of the crud that was going around and blocking people from getting the vaccination. And so that's what I shared with Luke. It's like, I think we need to do something similar with the affordable home ownership, because I know about the One Economy report, but there wasn't a whole lot about, what happened afterwards. Or if we could even talk about the equity challenge. Do you guys remember the equity challenge that United Way did? And all of a sudden there were thousands of people and people outside of Iowa that were taking the challenge. Because I think people really took it to heart and they started doing things differently. And so when I came to Luke's meeting, it was like, wow, there's diverse people. Young people are doing stuff in housing. So I thought, now, if I'm surprised about it, then I think there's probably a whole community. So why not set up the platform and let that happen? And after Tuesday afternoon, I got phone calls, I got emails, and people want more. They want more from James McNear. Also, Kenya, I got about 2 or 3 calls or emails about Kenya, because she knew so much about the refugee situation and the taxes and all of that. I mean, that could be a session in and of itself, but there was a lot of learning that took place, and I bet I get the same kind of calls and things from you guys. And Journey to Home Ownership was mentioned by about 2 other people. Yeah, and Bridget wasn't even presenting. So I think it's brought the community together around this issue. And like when Pastor Whitfield talked about moving the needle, it's like, okay, Pastor, now you just open a door for another conversation, because I don't want to leave it just hanging there. It's like the needle is moving. I know it is, because I talk to you guys all the time, but I think we need to set up something. And if it's in the spring, then it doesn't have to be a Zoom. The reason why it's a Zoom was because it was tied to MLK. And how many MLK events have I had to go back home because I couldn't get to it, because of the ice or the snow or this or that. So we did it on Zoom this time. But in April, we're probably going to have more conversations with you, Steve, and Julie and Joshua Barr. I mean, there's some people that want to do something with the 55th anniversary. And so we can probably bring that accountability piece into that as well. So, I mean, I think that that's one thing that we'll work on going forward. Now, most of the corporate, can you see? The book really does exist. It is really nice. It's going to drop electronically on Monday on MLK, or maybe Tuesday. We'll let people take that break, but then we're going to come in with it. And the reason why I held it up is because I was sending out so much stuff about the webinar, and I didn't want the book to get lost in the shuffle. It's like, oh, that's just another thing from Bob Brett, and then the book doesn't get read. So it's like, book, I'm going to take care of you, because people really did a good job. The question was, give me one page about what you do, and folks did. And Hannah did an excellent job of putting that together. And then on the back is Pastor Whitfield talking about what Corinthian Cares is doing. And as Pastor McNear said, Corinthian works with just about virtually all of the congregations in Central Iowa. And they bring along the other organizations, because like we've said here, you can't do it by yourself. You need other folks around. And so in closing, I think that what we did with the 2 webinars is we really focused in on affordable home ownership, and we brought in the various communities together. So the faith-based group, Steve, like what you had mentioned, the nonprofits and the corporate and public service, public schools, because we're in this together. And I had one child, and that child, my baby, is 49 years old. But I remember I went to college in Missouri, and when I came back to Des Moines, I wanted every kid to have the kind of education and choices and opportunities that I had and that she had. And so now I'm like everybody's mother. But definitely committed to families and Breann, see, because of my age, I lived on 2nd Street, and we got redlined out of the house, and people know that story. But I remember on 2nd Avenue, and my mom would get us all dressed up, and it was like in the summer, and we would walk up to 6th Avenue, and we would go to those businesses along there, because that was our downtown. So, I mean, when you showed that, it's like, yep. And now when I go down 6th Avenue, I see it coming back. I see it coming back. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
I love you, and
Well,
we'll
thank
get
you,
back,
Luke and
we'll
United
get back
Way.
together again. Luke is